Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. Adam, how's it going?
It's going great, Steven. How are you guys?
Good. How's the weather in DC?
We're in the 60s today, high 60s. So, it's getting a little chilly, but not that bad yet.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you all take it away with movie reviews.
Sure thing. So, I finally got to see the movie I've been trying to talk about for the past few weeks. And actually, it's 2 years in the making, but the latest James Bond movie, No Time to Die. And James Bond is back. Daniel Craig is back in it. And what he says is his final role as James Bond. And in this movie, and I don't want to get into too many details because, of course, it can spoil a lot, but it's a James Bond movie, right? James Bond is back. There's a new villain. There's a lot of ties to actually the previous movies. And one thing I'll say about this James Bond is it's not like the mostly standalone movies of our previous James Bonds. This one, I'll say you go in and you have to kind of know who the characters were in the previous movies. The beginning of this one, I didn't even know who he was with, who was apparently Inspector, the last movie. But this movie's still a fun little ride. You know, you're going to get your action, you're going to get your adventure, you're going to get kind of that old school James Bond. He does the quips, he does the little cheesy moments. I think when we started Casino Royale, the first Daniel Craig James Bond, it was really be the Bourne identity, but with James Bond. So everything was serious and a little more tighter on the action. This is, again, kind of your fun James Bond, a lot of callbacks, a lot of references. A lot of the James Bond fans, I think, will like it. It is 2 hours and 40 minutes long, which, in my opinion, is way too long for most movies. But I did feel like besides a few points, it did flow well and, it keeps you going. So highly recommend. This is the movie that, again, was supposed to be released in 2019, got pushed back a few times, was supposed to be released right before the pandemic. And they held off until this moment. And it's a movie you want to see in a theater for sure.
Cool. Do we know what the box office did?
Yeah, so the box office, they did about 56 million, so lower than the expectations. I think they were targeting 100 million. This movie was interesting because it's been released in Europe for a few weeks now, and the way they're timing this release is kind of weird. That the U.S. market, who usually gets it first, is getting it kind of in the middle of the schedule. But yeah, we'll see what happens with it. I think, again, 2 hours and 40 minutes also means you get less screen time in the theaters. So as opposed to a movie like Venom, which was only 90 minutes long, that they can show more showings, this one has kind of that shorter, that
Right.
weirder schedule. But we'll see. I mean, again, this is the final Daniel Craig James Bond, as far as we know. So I think people will at least eventually kind of shuffle into the theater.
Okay. So I saw three films. The first is entitled The Manor, which is streaming on Amazon Prime, which stars Barbara Hershey, Bruce Davidson, and Jill Larson. This movie follows a woman who is admitted into a nursing home, an historic nursing home, and throughout her time there, she begins to notice or suspect that there are some supernatural happenings, much to the chagrin of her family, who doesn't believe her. And the people that run the manor or the nursing home are basically pushing it off as if she has dementia. And this movie it surprised me how good it was. It has a couple twists. I'm a Barbara Hershey fan. If you remember the movie Beaches with Bette Midler, Barbara Hershey was the other woman in Beaches. And Barbara Hershey starred in this movie quite some time ago called The Entity. And The Entity was basically about a supernatural being that basically had its way with her in her home. And so Barbara Hershey's always been a fan of mine because she has compensity to pick movies that are a little macabre. And so I knew that her being in this movie, it was going to be good just simply because she was in it. And she did not disappoint. Like I said, the movie has some twists and turns. Definitely check it out. And it would definitely make you think about, getting older a little differently and having to go into a retirement home. Definitely check that out. I recommend it, streaming on Amazon now. And the second film I saw, it's streaming on Amazon as well. It's called Black as Night, and it stars Asia Cooper, Fabrizio Guido, Mason Beecham, and Keith David. Everyone knows Keith David from what's the show on OWN? Greenleaf.
Mm.
So he's the dad, and he has a surprise role in this film. So basically, young teenage girl is in the hood in New Orleans, and she basically has to battle vampires. Very, very good show, good movie.
I saw that up there. I saw it up
Yeah,
there. I started to watch it,
check
but I didn't.
check it out. It's interesting, and I'm taking in all these horror movies because it is October. It's Halloween
Absolutely.
time. It's my favorite time. I love horror films, so I'm going to be absorbing a lot of them this month in the name of Halloween. And the last film, which is a documentary, it's on Showtime. It's called Buried. It basically follows Ellen Franklin, who this is a real story. Ellen Franklin, who as an adult remembers that she witnessed her father commit murder, when she was a young girl. And those memories came to her late in life. She was an adult, and she now has to reckon with what she remembers. And her husband decide to bring it to the authorities. And the person that her father allegedly murdered was her best friend as a child. So as they dig and they probe and they go to court and they start dissecting, they get a psychologist and they start talking to her. They figure out all these different family dynamics that lead to possibly why she would possibly frame her father or lie about her father. If it's a lie, or isn't it a lie? You have to watch the documentary, check it out. It's pretty interesting, and this is a real story. And I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm watching it, and the whole time I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Seriously. It's deep. It's deep. Check it out. It's on Showtime now, called Buried.
Nice.
That's all I have.
Well, I watched two series last week. I watched Squid Game, because everyone's talking about. And at first I couldn't get into it, but then I like maybe episode 3 or 4. I was like, oh, okay, now I get.
Well, don't
everybody's.
spoil it because I want to watch that.
I'm not.
Apparently, that's like the top show.
But I will say, and the guy who originally wrote that, the screenplay for that, or screenwriter for that, back in 2009, but kept getting turned down, and so now it's #1 in 90 countries. But so they were saying don't ever give up. But I went to this restaurant on Friday. It was a Korean steakhouse kind of place, and our waiter, he was Korean, and he said that he asked if I had seen the show, and he said that for Halloween, some of the team, they're dressing up as the, if you watch it, there's people that are executing the games, and then there's some people dressed up as the players. But it was good. It was good. It was good. But I think the good thing about shows like that, where they have diverse casts or different ethnicities, it shows that if it's a good story, I don't care who's playing the roles, there is an audience for them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's why I was glad for the success of that.
And the thing about Squid Game, I haven't watched it complete. I've started it, but I haven't, gotten deep into it. Already, it's becoming a cult classic. It's not. It hasn't been out a year, and it's becoming a cult classic already. So,
I also watched something on Netflix. My best friend told me to watch it. Made, and
I heard about that.
Yes, it's a limited series. It was, at first I was like, same thing, but it is really, really, really good. Like I watched that like in 2 days. It was really, really good. And it's basically about this young mother. She breaks up from her boyfriend. I don't know if it's her boyfriend or her husband or whatever, but they have a young daughter, and she breaks up with him because he has an alcohol problem. And when he gets out, becomes impaired, he becomes not necessarily violent where he's hitting her, but he's like throwing things against the wall, throwing things at her, punching walls out, stuff like that. And she don't want her daughter to grow up around there. So it shows how she struggles, really struggles. Like she becomes a maid cleaning toilets for like she joins this company. They hire her, and it's like people that are moving. She sells their homes. You know, she cleans the homes that's for sale. But I don't know her name. You know what, Chike, the woman that she played on Dreamgirls beside Jennifer Hudson and Beyonce.
Anika Noni Rose.
She's in there. Now, her storyline is that she is a very wealthy attorney. And so she ends up being, the maid ends up cleaning her home. And so, not to give too much, she starts cleaning her home, and you know, while she's cleaning home, she sees, oh, you have a nursery. And she says, well, no, we don't have any kids. We're just staging it because we're trying to sell the home. The backstory is she's going through a divorce with her husband. And they actually had just recently, via a surrogate, the woman's pregnant. But now she's divorced by herself, like the surrogate's pregnant. They're going through the divorce, and now she has to raise this child that she didn't know she wants anymore because she doesn't feel connected to it because she didn't conceive it. And so,
you know, that's Sherry Shepherd's story, right?
Yep. And so the maid is helping her with that. But it's I mean, there's so many different layers to it. But but it is good. It is really good. So check that out. Check that out. And of course, 911 comes on tonight. The morning show. Adam, remember, 4 was last week, 5 is this week.
Yeah, that's how the numbering works. Yeah.
And so, but those are really good shows, so check them out.
6 is next week.
All right, 6 is after that. Anything coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, so a couple things. So, you know, this is the first going to the movie theater. It was probably the first movie theater I've been to in a while, and you know, trailers and 2 big ones. So House of Gucci looks really good, and it's kind of the story in the 90s of apparently the head of the Gucci family and brand was killed by his ex-wife when she hired a hitman. And so this kind of tells the story about that. Adam Driver, Lady Gaga star in it. And then Last Night in Soho, which is an Edgar Wright movie, and it's about this girl who lives goes to London, and she dreams, and when she goes to sleep, I think from the trailer, she becomes this famous dancer and singer in the 60s. And so she's living this kind of like dual life, and then she learns that the singer was murdered, and she knows who murdered this person. And now she's going to confront this person and try to solve the mystery, you know, 40 years later. So good trailers, looks fun. Both look very exciting and are coming out pretty soon.
Yeah.
Halloween.
They said every year that man would come attack this woman. Every year. She can't catch a break.
It's Halloween. It's Halloween.
I saw it on Instagram. They said every year is one thing guaranteed. Mike Myers coming after. Well, listen, guys, thank you for always letting us know what to spend our time and money on and what not to. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next Monday. We'll be right back after this.
All right.